In the name I am that I am, son of tomorrow, I call forth the light of the living word, beloved Elohim, beloved archangels, beloved mighty Choans of the rays and the lords of Karma. I call for the action of beloved Pallas Athena, beloved goddess of liberty, beloved Nada, beloved Kuan Yin, beloved Portia, beloved great divine director, beloved all-seeing eye of God, Cyclopeia. Let God's will be done, let God's will be done, let God's will be done. I demand the action of the sacred fire in this hour. Descend, almighty cosmos, secret rays. I am the holding of the balance of Lord Gautama Buddha, beloved Sana Kumara and the seven holy Kumaras. I call upon the sacred fire, I call upon the light of God that never fails. Beloved mighty, I am present, come forth in this hour of the victory. Come forth in this hour of the victory of the God's flame. I demand the full power of beloved mighty Athene with us this night. Beloved Jesus and Kusumi, Lord Maitreya, Gautama and Son of Kumara. Come Lord now in the victory of the God's flame. Send the light 10,000 suns. Beloved mighty Athene, mighty Athene, mighty Athene. Presence of only sort of aim around this fortune now. I call upon the great single sun magnet. I call upon the light of God that never fails. Beloved Estelle, beloved Estelle, beloved Estelle. I call upon the electronic solar rings of the great single sun, the seraphim of God. I call for the electronic fire rings. I call for the rings of the great single sun.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I'm your host, Robert Phoenix, and I apologize for the delay. Today's show, getting off the ground. I was talking with Friday's guest, or the guest that I'm going to have on Friday, and pretty excited about that. The one and only Freeman will be joining me this Friday on the Friday Farcast. And a lot of people have asked me to have Freeman on the show before. It's been a while, and so it's happening. He's actually in the area that I'm in right now, or close. So we're going to have Freeman on the show on Friday. It should be a really good show. And I apologize for being late, but we were closing up the details, finalizing the details for his Friday appearance on the show. Excuse me while I have a little sip of 5-hour energy to get me through the next 2 hours. Here we go. You know, 5-hour energy, it gives you hours of energy and no crash later. It's good stuff. I have become the connoisseur of energy drinks, which is probably not bad, probably not a good thing, but because of my schedule. And it reminds me, if you've ever seen the movie All That Jazz, it's an amazing movie, by the way. I mean, it's really a head trip. And Roy Scheider plays Bob Fosse. And he's driven. And because he's driven and he has these demanding schedules that he needs to keep up with, he just pops speed all the time. He pops speed and he stays up for, 2-3 days at a time and drinks and creates these amazing dance pieces. But there's this, the theme is, he gets up in the morning, takes a shower, goes over to his little speed bottle, pops his speed, and he does this thing with his hands. It's like he rubs it across his face, and he opens up his palms, and he shows his palms to the world and says, "It's showtime." Showtime. So I think I'm the Bob Fosse of energy drinks. That's what I think. I hate to say this, but my new favorite energy drink is Rockstar. I mean, if you look at the ingredients of Rockstar, they're not terrible. And they don't use fructose in Rockstar. And my new favorite Rockstar is they have the acai lemon lime, which is really good. I have to say that the Rockstar Cola is pretty good too. But today it's 5-hour energy, and it's gonna be the wave that will get me through today's show. So I'll be doing some live readings. You can call in, chime in if you'd like, after I do my little rant, which I normally do at the beginning of the show. Yesterday, of course, was 9/11. And it's a really strange day, 9/11. It is a day that is just absolutely soaked in cognitive dissonance. And what I mean by that is that here we are being asked to have a solemn moment for this day where all these lives were lost and our freedoms were threatened. The first time ever in history of this country we've been attacked. And 11 years after the fact, we're still going through these rituals which are supposed to remind us to never forget that day of infamy when the towers went down and the plane went down outside of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, the Pentagon. And it's a really strange day. I was at a pub last night and I was watching a baseball game because I don't have TV. So if I want to watch a sporting event, I have to go to a pub and watch that event. So I went to the pub and I'm watching the baseball game, and there's this guy sitting next to me who's a fireman. And of course, he's not just a fireman, he's a fire chief. So, this guy has got a lot invested, not only in his career, but the fraternity of firemen. And he talked about how, as he was coming into the town where I live, which is a port town, he heard these ships, and they were playing some maritime song, which I forget, on their carillons, and they were all being sort of guided with their radio to play their carillons at a certain time. So it was like somebody was conducting this symphony at on the water with these ships. And he was waxing poetically about it because they were doing this for 9/11. And, what do I do in that moment like that? Because, the story is not the story. The story is a fiction. And if, I may lose some listeners over this, but sorry, it's a fiction. What happened and what we were told happened are two very different things. And so I sat there and I listened to him, and I didn't say anything. I agreed with him, and then I turned my attention back to the game. It might be interesting to see if we could go back in time, and I have gone back in time and looked at that day. One of the things that was happening during that period on 9/11, 2001, was that Pluto was in the sign of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is the sign of truth in the zodiac. If you go down the list of Sagittarian novelists or thinkers, one of the things that is a common theme is the expression of some form of truth. William Blake, who was a Sagittarius, his famous mantra was, "I must create a system of my own or be enslaved by another's." That is his model of truth. That's his blueprint and his paradigm of truth. And it's very indicative of the Sagittarian experience. Jim Morrison, while he was no prophet of truth, he was trying to live in his own way, in his own kind of mind-controlled, possessed, Dionysian way, a Sagittarian authenticity or life of truth based on the Dionysian archetype that was manifesting through him. So Sagittarius is if you know people that are Sagittarians, they're very blunt. They will tell you what's up. Although Sagittarian Aaron Rodgers is not actually being quite truthful now, is he? He made a bet with one of the singers from Boys to Men. I think the guy that sings like this. And he lost the bet. He asked Boys to Men, to come sing at the opening game at Lambeau Field in Green Bay. And they said yes. But if you lose, you have to wear an Alex Smith jersey for a whole week. Now, Alex Smith plays quarterback for the 49ers, the team that was playing against the Green Bay Packers. And there's a history with Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers. Alex Smith is a Taurus, by the way, in case you wanted to know. And when they both came out of college, Alex Smith was the very first player chosen in the draft by the 49ers. And then 20-some-odd picks later, it might be 22 picks later, Aaron Rodgers was chosen by the Green Bay Packers. And Aaron Rodgers, up until this point, has been far more successful than Alex Smith has been for a number of reasons. So he made the bet. And he resented, by the way, the fact that Alex Smith had been drafted before him because Aaron Rodgers is from this area. He's from California. He grew up idolizing Joe Montana and Steve Young and all the 49er quarterbacks. So he wanted to play here, and his team passed on him. He wound up getting drafted by the team that most 49er fans hated, Packers. But Aaron Rodgers is a Sagittarius, and so there's this interesting thing between him and Alex Smith. He lost the game. They lost the game. So he's supposed to wear the Alex Smith jersey for a week, and I heard him this morning talking about it. He says, well, it was blown out of context, and he's backpedaling. And the guy is like, a Sagittarian can't lie. Unless, of course, you're Woody Allen. A Sagittarian can't lie. But even Woody Allen couldn't lie, right? I mean, he had love for his adopted, 12-year-old daughter. That Woody Allen thing is weird, okay? Let's just be right up front with that. Let's adopt a bunch of Korean kids. Let's raise them, and when they get to be close to legal age, let's dump your wife for the cutest one in the bunch that you've always had a very fond relationship with. That's just weird. I don't understand how he didn't get more flack for that. That's just absolutely strange. I'll tell you who else did it. Morgan Freeman did it. Same deal, except he didn't adopt. It was his stepdaughter. Morgan Freeman left his wife for his stepdaughter. And how creepy is that? He's Gemini, so he's the flip side of Sagittarius. So anyway, Sagittarius theoretically is the sign of truth. Or at the very least, authenticity. When we see Sagittarius, we see the image of the centaur, breaking free of constraint. The galactic center, which is at, I believe, 26 degrees Sagittarius, it's in Sagittarius. The absolute center, the galactic center of the universe is in Sagittarius, 26 degrees. So Sagittarius plays a large role in the dissemination of truth or authenticity, sovereignty on some level. So what happened during 9/11 is that Pluto was in Sagittarius. And there's a couple different things that took place. Number one, we saw, and this is just at a very high level, I'm not getting into the squares at that time, because there's squares going on, big squares with Virgo. But what happened is that this whole notion of truth. What is Pluto? Pluto is the planet of transformation, right? Life, death, rebirth. This is the notion of transformation. One thing lives, then it dies, and out of the ashes, something else is reborn. That is Pluto. It is synonymous with the phoenix. This is what Pluto does. It mirrors the life cycle, the death cycle, the afterlife cycle. So when we take Pluto and we take Sagittarius and we put them together, what do we have? We have the transformation of truth. Now, this is where it gets interesting on this third dimensional plane of existence. Because we live in a perceived realm of duality. Because outside of our perceived realm of duality, which is Gemini, there is no separation. Everything is one, and it's this constant barrage of hammering, symbolic hammering, that splits and divides our consciousness and our psyche. This is the milieu that we live in. Okay? So, roll with me for an instant here, or for a moment or two. If we have a transpersonal and a collective energy like Pluto and Sagittarius, and we live in a dualistic universe or dualistic world based on some form of consensual agreement reinforced by an array of symbols that take us away from our unified consciousness and into a world of separation, then theoretically we have nodal points along the way in this stream of consciousness and this stream of existence, in this domain, where we can, for lack of a better term, exploit energy and exploit an angle or exploit a moment in time, either for positive or negative means, or means to an end. And this is what happened on 9/11, 2001. Because the notion of truth, the notion of being able to pierce the veil of illusion was in the air with Pluto and Sagittarius. It was in the air that theoretically we could arrive at a new level of perceiving the truth, because you have to realize that Pluto was in Sagittarius from 1996 all the way up to 2009. So there were 8 years after 9/11, 2001, where Pluto was still in Sagittarius. And instead of getting down and understanding, what's really driving the modus operandi of this reality, now we got diverted and we're off on a different tangent. Now we're off on a tangent that is not about the exploration of truth or the dissemination of knowledge so that we can arrive at some greater collective truth. Now we're off. We've been moved off of that track and onto another track where everything from that point forward is based on illusion. And so what happened is that we had this whole notion of truth transformed. And transformed in a negative way, not a positive way. A positive way would have been, okay, let's get down. Let's get the wrenches, let's get the rivet guns, and let's start debolting or unbolting this machine that's been created around us and get down to what's really happening, which is the gross manipulation of the third dimensional reality that we're living in. But that didn't take place. And what happened is that in order for us to not do that, there had to be an equally powerful event that would not only divert our attention, but would morph our psyches forever. And this is what 9/11 did. This is what happened. And this is why I'm sitting at a pub listening to this guy, well-meaning, wax poetically about an event that, it just didn't happen the way we've been told it happened. And now we live in a world of deep and profound and utter cognitive dissonance. And everything that's unrolled since then has been creating a new world. And if you haven't been paying attention, you're asleep. Everything that's happened from 9/11/2001 is all about surveillance, security, fear. The economy is gone to hell in a handbasket. It's been more about the division of consciousness than ever before. If we look at what's happening with Romney, we look at what's happening with Obama, we look at what's happening with the left and the right, and this war on women, and nobody talks about the war on men, by the way. Everybody talks about the war on women. Nobody talks about why, because men, men don't count. Men are the problem, right? I was going to have this woman on my show on Friday, and she was really interesting on one level. Then I spent some time, looking at her feed on Facebook, and she's like, interested in the extinction of men. I mean, this is part of her trip. The creator is removing men from this planet. It's like, I can't have that woman on my show. See you later. I'm going to have a man on my show on Friday. A free man. Freeman. So here we are now. We're embroiled in more duality than ever before since 9/11. I'm sorry. And this is what's happened. Instead of going into that Plutonic Sagittarian transformation of truth and really getting down into it, right? What we're doing now is we're dividing and conquering, fractal. Fractalization of consciousness. That's where it's at now. It's all Gemini. Here we are, Jupiter Gemini, and I'm talking about it. And the election and the political process in this country is indicative of Jupiter Gemini. The United States has a couple planets in Gemini. The United States has Uranus in Gemini. And it also, if I'm not mistaken, has Mars in Gemini. So we're a very Gemini kind of country, and we're being rewarded with that, I suppose, if one can be rewarded. So what happened on 9/11 is that we had this whole notion of truth be subverted. That's what happened. That is exactly what happened. And now we're living in a world which is thick with illusion and thicker than ever before. And what's happened since then is that even though we're living in this bifurcated consensual reality, the internet has taken off in a huge way, and people are disseminating the truth to the best of their ability. And there are tons and tons and tons and tons of blogs out there that get down and really take things apart to get to, what's happening. And I think that we are, to the best of our ability, trying to get to the truth in spite of the blatant mind control that took place on 9/11/2001 and still continues to take place. You can't hold it back. You can try to change it, try to subvert it. You can't hold it back. So now we have a mass awakening, and that's what's taking place. If you're listening to the show, you're part of it. If you read my blog or you read anybody else's blog that's similar or related, you're part of it. And your goal and your duty right now is to anchor it and disseminate it in your own way. Now, if we are involved in a mass awakening, and I believe that we are, in spite of what some people might tell you, I just lost a caller, sorry. Then what happens is that if the people that want to continue to control this domain of consciousness and this domain of existence want to halt or funnel or shift this awakening, well, guess what? They're going to have to create another event that would be equal to or greater than the awakening of consciousness that's now taking place. And that, in and of itself, is a pretty scary scenario, because 9/11 was no insignificant event to pull off. Trust me. That was years in the making. Years. At least a decade. Maybe more. So if you think about it, and we've got all these people waking up right now, well, what would be the solution to keep them from waking up? It would be an event that would be equal to or greater than that. It's a massive planetary awakening. It would have to be greater than that. And that's where we are now. But we are not alone. We are not alone in our quest to recognize and understand who we are and what we're capable of. And this is a good thing. This is a very powerful notion to have and to anchor in one's life. And we are not alone. We are not alone at all. All right, it is 1:30 here, or no, it's 10:30 here, and it's I've got an hour 30 left in the show. I'm sorry, been staying up late at night, juggling worlds, and I am doing live readings. I'm sorry I scared that last person off. They were on the phone or holding for 6 minutes, 7 minutes. I might have scared them off. 347-308-8995 is the number. 347-308-8995 is the number. And somebody after the Monday show, somebody got on my case because these shows go to YouTube. The lovely Eric there converts them into a YouTube file, and we put them up on YouTube. They're also available for download here on Blog Talk. And somebody got on my case because I talked about the Illuminati clock. And I talked about how nothing happened, at least in this domain, this physical domain, so we couldn't see it. But I alluded to the fact that perhaps, an interdimensional portal, aka a Stargate, or not even a Stargate, just an interdimensional portal opened up. And I was just, I was playing with the concept. The legion of demons coming through this interdimensional portal. And this guy, called me out on YouTube, and he compared me to David Icke and Drake. I couldn't believe that. Like, you listen to me? It's ridiculous. And then he said, "Oh yeah, your mysterious audio problems." I had audio problems with Ellis. Ellis is calling in from halfway around the world. Okay, Ellis is in Wales or close to Wales, and he's got a computer that's not in the best shape. And for whatever reason, Ellis seems to be targeted, and somebody was trying to hack his computer while he was on the air with me. He told me this after the show. The first time I had him on the show, we had terrible issues with audio. Ellis seems to be a targeted individual. What can I do about that? Can't do anything about that. Did the best I could. And you know what? I don't even charge for this. I don't even charge to do what I do. I bring people guests. I get out here. I riff. I do readings. I don't charge. I don't charge anybody for it. And he had the gall to say, "I'm unsubscribing to you." Well, you don't even pay for it, you asshole. Fine, unsubscribe. Go find somebody else. Let's take a caller here. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Sherry. How are you?
Hey, Sherry, I'm good. How are you doing?
Well, good. Do you need my birth date?
I do. Where you calling from, Sherry?
I'm calling from Iowa.
Okay, Iowa. Let's do this. Let's put you. I've got my window open right here. And go ahead, Sherry.
Okay, it's 4963.
4963. So we're talking April 9th. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And what time were you born, Sherry?
I want to say like 2:53 a.m.
2:53 a.m. Okay. And where was that?
Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Okay. The Cedar Rapids Barnstormers, which is where Kurt Warner became semi-famous.
Uh-huh. He's originally from here.
I like Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we go. There's you. How much do you know about your chart, Sherry?
Not a whole lot.
Okay. Do you know that you're an Aquarius rising?
No.
You are, and you have a Libra moon. And
Okay.
your Libra moon is actually conjunct my Venus, so we should get along pretty well here. So you have Aquarius on the ascendant, and then you have an Aries sun, and your sun is opposite the moon, which is interesting. And you have Saturn in Aquarius in the first house, which is also a very interesting place for Saturn, and it trines your moon. A very tight orb, 2 degrees. So even though you have moon in an air sign, people that have moon in air sign, whether it's Gemini or Libra or Aquarius, can sometimes be a little emotionally, I wouldn't say inconsistent, but because they are air signs, the emotions can sometimes blow in the wind and can be, knocked around pretty easily, and people can sort of change their emotional affiliation or emotional mindset based on thoughts, what they think, what they perceive, and then accordingly they will shift their emotional tension. Sometimes people with moon in Gemini can be considered flighty. Sometimes people with moon in Libra can be considered a little on the vain side, and sometimes people with moon in Aquarius can be considered cold. But luckily for you, your moon trines Saturn, which gives you a fair degree of staying power with emotions. And you can hang in there with people for a while if you need to. And, you're very principled, too. Saturn in Aquarius in the first house has a great deal of principles. And your moon, which is also in the 8th house, kind of upholds them. So emotions are very important to you. Feelings are important to you. But the interesting thing about them is that they are also linked to, I wouldn't say ideology, because Aquarius isn't necessarily ideological, but at the same time, there is this larger notion of what's important on an emotional level, not just for you, but for the world and for the planet and for the universe, and that somehow you're linked with that. And at a high level, let's say you're really activating your chart and you're really humming and you're doing your work. At a high level, you would be able to hold space, emotional space, for large groups of people, or organizations, or even in some instances, the planet itself, because you have moon in the 8th house, and it's a very intense place for the moon. And a lot of times, people that have moon in the 8th house, other people aren't aware of really how they really feel. Like they would put their emotions, their intense emotions, their deep emotions, their dark emotions, very much sort of hidden down in the recesses, in the corners of their psyche. And with a Libra moon, people would see with you more of because Libra moon is really genial, and I have a Libra moon, by the way, and it likes to be diplomatic and make friends and be harmonious. So people would see that with you, but beneath that, you would be churning and have a much deeper relationship with your emotions with that moon in the eighth house. There'd be some conflict too, by the way, with the sun and the moon, because your sun is opposed your moon. Classically, when you get into a sun-moon opposition in a chart, more often than not, the individual has experienced a divorce or separation in their family, either with marriage in their life or with their parents. Generally speaking, with the parents, sometimes it can result not in a legal separation, but often even terminated by death or the loss of one parent. So when we get into the moon-sun dichotomy, there's also a need for the individual to achieve some kind of balance between the feminine and the masculine. And for you, it's pretty contrasted, because your sun is in Aries, which is a very male sign. And what's interesting is that Libra is an air sign, and air is generally considered male. But Libra, I find to be a very feminine sign because it's ruled by Venus. And if you look at people that are Libras, they always have a kind of a softer edge to them. Like, for instance, Sting, who is a Libra, as hard as he tries to be, or when he was back with the Police, to be punky or edgy, he always had this refined, almost slightly feminine edge to him.
Yeah.
So what you're part of what you're doing here in this lifetime is working on this balance, this dichotomy of bringing the feminine and the intuitive side of who you are, which is that moon in Libra in the eighth house, into the masculine, which is your sun in Aries, in second house, which is the house of Taurus. And Taurus gets things done. Taurus is an earth sign. It's in this world. So part of what you're about too is getting things done and making things happen, and being the person that is kind of in charge or leading, or if there's a group activity, you might be the person that maybe you're not saying, hey, I'm leading, but you would do things that would just people around you would notice you. It's like, oh, look what Sherry's doing. Look what Sherry's doing. Let's fall in line. Let's follow her lead. And sun and the challenge here is bringing these, because also what's fascinating is that Aries and Libra are called cardinal signs, and these are the signs that initiate and get things done. They initiate projects. It's initiatory energy. But the moon and the sun are in fixed houses. So you have cardinal energy in fixed domains. And one of the things that you want to watch out for is kind of getting fixed or getting stuck in kind of one part of this polarity. And your lifetime goal here is to bring all this into some form of accord. The sun in Aries is about, it's just all about, being. Aries doesn't really, and I don't want to say that Aries is anti-intellectual. That's not even close. Aries is not anti-intellectual. But Aries is not really concerned about the intellect. Aries just wants to be and then do.
Right.
There should be no disconnect between, I'm going to do this, I'm thinking this, I'm doing this, it's all one. Right? That's Aries. And in the second house, because it's an earth house, there would be this impetus to do this. So we have this notion here of just being to do. And your moon, which is in the eighth house in Libra, is much more intuitive. It's much more engaged in the sort of the feminine mysteries and listening to hunches and things like that. And Libra, by the way, is the greatest second guesser in the zodiac. Like, Libra always second guesses its decisions. Oh, should I have done this? Should I do this? And when you have to have a big life moment, when there's a big life moment for you, that's when things can get a little tricky. And you have to, it's like, do you trust your instincts? Do you trust your hunches? Do you trust your intuition? Or do you just move ahead with that, with that very Aries energy, and with your sun in the second house? So one of the things that you could do is try to meet in the middle of your chart. And that would be, find your center. You know, anytime you have to make a really big life decision, find your center, which means you can meditate, which means you can, do anything to somehow bring your desire to be and your instincts into accord. Just to be able to do that, whatever that thing is. Here, in the 20th century, actually 21st century, we've been sort of indoctrinated over the past 30 years that yoga or meditation are good things to be able to do it. For some people, just a walk in the woods or whatever that thing is. Whenever you have to make a life decision, a big life decision, where you feel like you're being pulled in a couple different directions. And by the way, you have another opposition between Venus and Pluto in your chart, which is a wholly different dynamic, but it's still an opposition. Whenever you feel like you're pushed, you're really pushed, you just have to take time out and you've got to just get in the center, your own center, and get there whatever way you can. The big ticket item for you is Uranus, and Uranus is in the sign of Aries right now. And by 2014, it will be very close to your sun, S-U-N, sun in Aries. So you're going to have a sun Uranus conjunction, and that'll be a very interesting time in your life. And a lot of times when people have a sun Uranus conjunction, they go through a major, major life change, and they wind up doing things that are very, very different than what they had been doing prior to that. And I'll give you an example. My ex-wife is born on the 7th of April, so just 2 days before you. Her sun is around, I think, 14 degrees. And Uranus, which is at 8 degrees, got up to 9 degrees this year, is within a 5-degree orb of her sun. It's actually within a 6-degree orb of yours. And then it's a little further out than that. So what happened with her? Well, she was in a particular field for a number of years. It was internet music, and she actually did pretty well in that. She got a vice president position at a company, and that company got sold, and her job went away. Done. Okay? So now what is she doing? Well, she got a job doing something very different than she'd ever done before. She'd been online, doing all this online marketing before. Now she's going offline, and she's going to be doing marketing for a foundation. And the foundation has everything to do with the body. It's very physical. And she does these triathlons and all this other stuff. So this is right in alignment with who she is now. So what she's done is she's radically kind of recreated who she is that's closer to her own self-expression. And as Uranus gets closer to your sun, you'll have the opportunity to do that as well. Now, here's the deal. Moon in Libra is very polite. It never wants to step on anybody's toes, okay? As Uranus gets closer and closer to your sun, and then even as it gets in between your sun and Mercury, which also opposes your moon, you're going to have to stare down, being the nice person. You're going to have to, at some point, say, I will sacrifice being nice for what I need right now, because that's the most important thing. And I don't want to tell people to F off or anything like that, but I'm going to have to move my needs forward now, because this is the most important thing that I'm going through. And it will allow me to nurture people, because I think you're a nurturer in your own way. It will allow me to nurture people at a greater level if I'm taking care of myself in my own sort of spiritual or inner directive. And this is coming to you. This is coming through 2013 and 2014. I think that's really the big ticket item. Also, Pluto is in Capricorn right now, and you're in the midst of a Pluto trine, which is pretty cool. I mean, I've been going through the Pluto trine, and it allows people to kind of reset their lives, because Pluto is it's a planet that theoretically would sustain us. Here's how it works. So when we get to the age of like 50, 49, 50, 51, 52, and everybody goes through this with the Pluto trine. This is how astrology works. We are now looking at the back end of our lives, and the Pluto trine is there to help us arrange how we're going to be living the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years of our lives. It helps us it gives us the opportunity to recreate what we do on some level in a positive way. It's not like an opposition where we have to break free of constraint. It's not like a square where we have to fight to understand, where our limitations are and either work against them or embrace them and work within them. The trine is an opportunity to build. So you have this Pluto trine going on, and it pretty much lasts up through next year because Pluto gets to 11 degrees. It'll still be trining your natal Pluto. So this is a good time for you in order to solidify and anchor parts of your life that are meaningful, because Pluto in Virgo is all about meaning, meaningful work, health, all those things. So you don't want to sleep on this trine. You want to work towards how you want your life to be for the next 15 to 20 years, to be honest with you. And Pluto for you is let's see right there. It's there's Sagittarius, okay, and right there, so Sag goes there. So Pluto is it's in your 12th house right now as well. And the Pluto 12th house journey is very intense. And when people have Pluto in the 12th house, transiting the 12th house, they are brought, not face to face, but they are brought into this arena where you deal with this concept of death, the notion of death through the 12th house. It could be the death of a way of life. It could be people around you that pass away. The Pluto 12th house transit is very profound. And you're going to have Pluto in your 12th house for a while because part of your 12th house is ruled by Aquarius. And Pluto will be in Capricorn, I think, for like another 13 years. And then there's going to be at least another 6 to 7 years where it's going to be in your 12th house in Aquarius. So you've got Pluto in your 12th house for 20 years. And that for you will be, this will be an amazing time for you if you can allow, because the 12th house is the house of the soul. And again, this is my definition of the 12th house, is the house of the soul. And Pluto is the most kind of intense and transformational planet that there is. And so, whenever a planet transits the 12th house, and again, my interpretation is that we must somehow get in touch with that energy, whether it's Saturn, whether it's Mars, whether it's Venus, whatever that is. And then we have to honor that energy and then find out what it wants to do with us. We must surrender, because the 12th house is Pisces. We must surrender to that energy in order for that energy to really manifest in our life. So for you, anytime a person has a planet through the 12th house, they must get in touch with it, whether it's, again, through meditation or art or writing or whatever that thing is. So for you, dealing with these big questions about life and death and existence and meaning and who we are beyond our bodies and soul, these are all incredibly important notions for you to understand while Pluto's in your 12th house. And then over time, what happens is you become more and more capable of allowing this energy to permeate the rest of your chart and to inform the rest of your chart. And so you go into the world, you go into your life with a gravitas and a sense that that people need to connect with you at some level, that you have some missing piece of the puzzle for them. That's what Pluto in the 12th house is. And they'll want to spend time with you, and they'll want to kind of understand your story and why you have this depth that you're walking around with. That's how Pluto will ultimately manifest in your life and through the rest of your chart. And right now, because it's trining your Pluto in Virgo, in a very wide 7th house, by the way, it's a very good time for you to get in touch with this energy. So I don't know what you're doing. A lot of times people, when they have a Pluto 12th house transit, sometimes they would get involved with hospice work, or sometimes, they'll really get deeply engaged in death and dying stuff, or afterlife stuff, near-death experience. But because it's in Capricorn, and this is just maybe my own projection, it would be more along the lines of understanding the life and death of civilization, because Capricorn represents society. So it'd be understanding the life and death of civilization, the life and death of paradigms, the rise and fall of empire, all those things, the life and death of planets and universes and stars. This is not an inconsequential transit of the 12th house. It's a very powerful, very profound transit of the 12th house. So anything superficial for you around this whole notion of life and death is just not going to cut it, And by the time this is done, and that by that time you will be well into your silver years, you will have achieved a sense of wisdom that many people just don't get to, because this transit is happening at a certain time in your life where you're able to kind of put it all together. Like if it were to happen when you were young, like 12, 13, 14, it might be overwhelming, and you would spend the rest of your life trying to figure it out. But you're right in the middle of it right now. So anyway, how's that?
Very interesting. I will have to really pay attention and get into that place.
Yeah, I think. If you don't, I think what will happen is that life will begin to lose its meaning on some level. It'll be flat.
Right. Well, it has been here lately. I have had a lot of crazy stuff going on, and I know that death can mean many different things, but like our house burnt down, so that's kind of like a death in itself, and it's forcing us into something, a new, totally new environment from what we've lived in. And there's a lot of things I think right now that's happening for reasons in my life, and I'm just having to connect the dots.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, very, very interesting reading. I do appreciate your time today.
Okay, Sherry. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's pretty interesting, huh? Pluto in the 12th house, and she has a fire, loses everything, has to restart her life and her home. Okay, let's go here. Hello there.
Hello, my name's Jill.
Hi, Jill. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good. Did you call in earlier, Jill?
Yeah, and then someone else called me, so I had to hang up and call you back.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling back in. What can we do with you and for you today, Jill?
Okay. Do you look at charts? Is that what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Okay. Do you want me to give you my information?
Please.
Okay. December 17th, 1960.
Okay.
I was born at 7:45 a.m.
Hold on one sec here. Okay, at 7:45 a.m. And where was that?
Waukegan, Illinois. Do you need me to spell it?
No.
Okay, cool.
I spent some time in Illinois.
Oh, you did?
Not much.
Where? Illinois is big.
Let's see. No, you know what? I'm sorry. It was not Illinois. I'm blah, 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 blah. I was thinking of Wisconsin. My bad. Okay. Yes. All right. Here we go. I see you.
Okay.
So, how much do you know about your chart?
I know a little bit. I know that I'm a Sagittarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius.
Yes, you are. So you have Sagittarius Sun, and then you have Moon in Sagittarius. Now, I have your ascendant, by the way, at 26 degrees Sagittarius. But your first house is almost primarily Capricorn. Excuse me. And then you have Jupiter and Saturn in Capricorn in the first house. So, yes, you are heavily Sagittarian Capricorn. You've got Jupiter in Capricorn, Saturn in Capricorn, and then you have the three Sagittarian planets, and then your Sagittarian ascendant. So you're tilted towards the 9th and 10th houses in terms of the not your chart, but the chart itself. It's an interesting combination. You also have, let's see, Mars in Cancer and Venus in Aquarius. So you have an interesting distribution of Earth and, let's see, fire. You're a little light on the water. Mars in Cancer will make up for it because it's a pretty prominent placement for a water planet. But your Mars opposes Jupiter and it opposes Saturn, and it's in the 7th house. And whenever you get Mars in the 7th house in the natal chart, relationships can be challenging.
Totally.
And part of the reason why for you it would be challenging is people that have Mars in Cancer are very sensitive. They're sensitive people. I know this. I've got Mars in Cancer. It's much earlier degree, but people with Mars in Cancer feel a lot. And when they're feeling really good, they're wonderful people to be around. And when they're not feeling good, they just want to crawl in their shell and hide out in their bedroom or whatever that is. And when I share this with you, please try not to take it personally.
Oh, I don't. Just tell me the truth, whatever that is.
Okay, so the challenge with Mars and Cancer, especially in the 7th house, is taking things too personally at times. And to be too sensitive, because Mars in the 7th house can be quite argumentative, and it can be either stimulating the argument or it can attract people who themselves are argumentative. And so there's something that you need to figure out with Mars in the 7th house about conflict in relationship.
You know what, I think I have been kind of tapping in on that, and I think what I'm finally seeing, it's not personal. Like I'm starting to, I take everything personal, like so and so's just trying to take advantage of me,
right.
And I'm starting to see that, be a little more open that so and so is taking advantage of everybody. But when it's done to me, because I was really abused in my family, right away I'm like, it's happening just to me.
Right. There would be that kind of identification with Mars and Cancer, because Mars and Cancer takes on a lot. People have Mars and Cancer, they can walk in a room and all of a sudden they start feeling everybody else's feelings, right? And it's like, where's my feelings in the midst of all of this?
Yes.
So the other piece here is that you have Jupiter and Saturn oppose your Mars, and that's kind of tricky, right? Because Capricorn is, it's very, but it's a very button-up kind of sign, and Capricorn wants to always put its best face forward or its best,
Yes.
And so there's, in a lot of ways, you confront, right? Because you've got this Capricorn energy. And you're like, I can be capable. I can get things done. Don't fuck with me.
Yep.
And on the back end, in your relationships, right? And here's where it gets a little tricky, because in your relationships, this is where you would also work out your frustrations, because you would have, with all this Capricorn energy on the front end of your chart, you would literally, in some ways, sacrifice the slings and arrows of misfortune, or the slings and arrows of disrespect in the world. You would put on your armor and you would go into the world and nothing would hurt you. But when you got home, you would think about, oh, this guy really crapped on me today. And then at home, then it would come out. And now you've got to work out all your frustration in your one-on-one relationships. You're
right. It is true.
So what happens now is Pluto is 2 degrees off of your Jupiter, okay? And this is a big thing for you. Pluto's going to be moving through your first house for quite a while, roughly for about the next 12 years, okay, 13 years. And when Pluto hits your Jupiter next year, it will be direct on your Jupiter next year, you have the opportunity to completely transform your identity. Okay, and you have an opportunity to turn the tables on how you process frustration or how you process indignation or all the things that you have to sacrifice in order to get by in the world and make things happen. You're going to be able to transform that. Now, what does that mean? Well, what it means is that there is an opportunity that's coming to you, coming at you, that allows you to integrate, really allows you to integrate who you are. So let's go back in time. Let's go back to, we don't have to do this right now on the show, but let's theoretically go back in time to when you were growing up and you had the abuse and you had the violence. You had all these things, right? You have the opportunity with Pluto on your Jupiter to literally bury those things. So literally bury them. And what I would suggest, and I've done this with people before, is to create like a burial, almost like a burial ceremony, where you take, either pictures or you write things out, anything that has been really a part of this process for you, okay? A part of this process for you that has gotten in your way over the course of your lifetime. Well, you are entering a phase where you can resolve this. And you take all these things, and there's two ways that you can do it. One, you can put all these things in a box, right? And you can tie it up, and you can go somewhere, and you can actually bury that thing. You can bury that box, and maybe you could even plant a tree on top of the box, and now you're in the organic realm of Capricorn. And this is a very important piece, because if you take your time and really say, okay, this is what happened, and you write it out, or this is a picture of somebody that did something to me, and you put that in there. All these things, you just put them away, then you bury them. And at that point, you move forward. The other thing you can do is you can burn it. If you're into this concept of burning the past away, you can do that too. And because with Pluto on your Jupiter, what you're really being asked to do now is you're being asked to move into your first house in a new way, in a way that's really accomplished, in a way that is really professional, and in a way that hopefully at the same time integrates that Mars in Cancer, because you don't necessarily want to bifurcate and be, the strong woman with your armor in the front and then dump with the people that you love in the back. You want to bring it all together, and part of this burial and part of this transformation is to be able to be vulnerable in places. It's like flipping the script, right? To be able to be vulnerable with that first house and with that Capricorn, and say, instead of in that moment allowing somebody to hit you, metaphorically, and then moving forward and then going home and then dumping at home or dumping in your relationship, in that moment you say to that person, do you know what you're doing right now? They'll say, excuse me? Well, I'll tell you what you're doing right now. What you're saying to me has nothing to do with the issue that we need to solve. What you're saying to me is actually directed towards me in a way that is subtle, and you may not even be aware of it, but let me show you how. You've just said that I do such and such and so and such. This has nothing to do with the issue, okay? So how would you like it if I said that to you in a similar situation? I bet you wouldn't like it, would you? Well, so what you need to do is bring that Cancerian sensitivity in the first house and integrate it. You want to integrate it with sort of the tough woman, the strong woman that you are. And in those moments where people are trying to, hate on you or project onto you, you stop them in their tracks. You just stop them. And you stop them in a way that is not mean, that is not vindictive, but it makes them aware of what they are doing. And to do that, you need to be in the moment, Jill. That's what you have to be. You've got to be in the moment. In the moment. And how do you get in the moment? You bury the past. Because what keeps people from being in the moment? It's all their shit. It's all their tapes, all their baggage, all their hurts, all their wounds. And it's challenging. It's challenging. Now, what's really, okay, so I'm going to just kind of diverge a little bit, but you're a Sagittarius, and maybe you can run with this. When we look at the life of somebody like Jesus, right? Why is the life of Jesus so radically important for our psyche? Because Jesus lives in the moment, right? Jesus is always in the moment, always teaching. And why? Because he theoretically has died to his past. He has died to his culture, and he is living in accord with this infinite source that is within him. And that infinite source can then begin to inform him from moment to moment to moment. Now, theoretically, if you get into the crucifixion, that is the burying of the past for humanity's sins, theoretically, right? So now what do we do now? From that point forward, we're all supposed to be living in the moment. If that's really a collective event, you need to have your own peace around that. And so for you, you must bury the past. You've got to separate from these events in your life. And sometimes it's the process around this can be very emotional. If you sit down and you write all this stuff out, and you have these pictures, and you go through everything that's happened to you, that can be incredibly cathartic. And then you can the tears, you can literally have these holograms that are within your cellular structure, literally just get drained out of your body. That the memory, the film of these events gets drained out of your body, and now all of a sudden, instead of hurt and sorrow and anger, grief comes into play, and now you have compassion, and now you're living in the moment. And then when somebody comes in and says, "Sorry, that tape is not here anymore, and I don't appreciate what you're doing to me, so please, let's change the conversation. Let's take this to another level. I'm not a victim anymore." And that's Pluto right on Jupiter in your first house.
I feel like I'm already processing. I'm already in that.
Well, good.
Good. So, I'm starting to come to terms with all of that. So you're right on the money.
The other thing, too, is that you have this, you're a truth teller.
Yes.
And part of the challenge for you is that you've got 3 planets, and they're all in Sagittarius, and they're all in the 12th house. So theoretically, at a deep level, at a soul level, you know what to do. You know what to do. You know exactly what to do. The challenge is people that have a lot of Sagittarius, especially in the 12th house, and especially when they're young, okay, they will tell people, excuse me, what's up? They'll tell, hey, this is what's happening, especially as teenagers. And then the world will try to shut them down, and especially when they're young. Shut it down.
I still do that as an adult. I get fed up and call people out on it.
Right. That's part of the Sagittarian thing in the 12th house, okay? What's going to happen is Uranus is in Aries, and in 2013, it's going to trine your moon. And let me tell you, your truth-telling is it's going to be off the freaking charts, okay? Because the Uranus is going to ignite your moon like a powder keg. And one of the things that you're going to have to figure out with this is you're going to have to somehow do this in a way that's subtle at times and deft. Because, truth is like a sledgehammer. And if people aren't ready for it, man, they will just, cower and find a corner in the room.
Right. So, I know what you're saying. So when I walk in the room, everybody's not running.
Right. And so you've got, Uranus is in your 3rd house right now. So, finding ways to be witty and clever and imaginative, that's your challenge. Have fun with it.
I get that.
Make truth fun.
I can be funny, so that's a good point.
Yeah, make truth fun. And Uranus is going to trine, again, in 2013 and 2014, it's going to trine your Mercury. And that's going to be a very interesting time for you because you're going to have the ability to really tap into your intuition and your own personal genius in a very unique way, in a way that maybe you have not experienced before in this lifetime. So you have major aspects that are very powerful and very, very empowering. So, if you kind of follow the script a little bit here and allow the universe to work with you, I think you'll be able to turn the tide in a number of different areas in your life.
Can I ask one real quick question?
Sure.
And is there any, you might have touched upon it, but I need a little bit of clarity. I feel like all my life I've been misunderstood. I stand out in front of people. I show, I run around understanding them so they'll understand me, so I can relate to them so they can understand me. I spell it out. I'm still misunderstood.
That's the 12th house. I mean, you've got your sun in the 12th house, Mercury in the 12th house, Moon in the 12th house. 12th house is a hidden house. And here's the tricky part with being misunderstood, especially with the 12th house stuff. Sometimes you may not be misunderstood, and your own perception of it is a little skewed because you might actually be communicating something to somebody, and they're getting that point, but what they're not getting is the 2 or 3 points beneath that. And that's the part that would frustrate you, because they'll only be getting a portion of who you are. And let's go back now. Let's go back to Uranus. Uranus is going to move across those planets over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. And trust me, if I'm still doing this 3 to 4 years from now, you call back in and you tell me, I am clearly understood now by everybody that comes in contact with me. They get it. It's unavoidable. Now, you have your sun at 25 degrees of Sagittarius, okay? And your sun is conjunct the galactic center, which I talked about earlier in the show. And people that are born during this time, and this gets into this a little bit too, people that are born between like 25 and 28 degrees Sagittarius, they often feel quite misunderstood. And this is just the way of things, because you are literally from your solar expression, you are coming from the center of the universe, and it is right on your ascendant and coming out of the 12th house. So it would be easy to misunderstand you, because there is a profundity and there is a depth and a dimension that I'm not even sure you understand at times. And what's going to happen is, again, let's go back to Uranus. Uranus is going to, it's going to crack open each one of those planets as it begins to hit them at the various angles. And what ultimately would occur is that as it begins to trine your sun, as Uranus begins to trine your sun, that you would become more and more aware of the profundity and the mystery and the complexity and the pure cosmic delight of who you are. And I would venture to say, Jill, that you were born into an environment that was very challenging for you.
Yes, still is.
Very challenging, because you're born in the Midwest, and Midwestern values, Midwestern perceptions, and I'm not slamming the Midwest, because there's many good people, and I love the Midwest.
Well, and there's a lot of, in a way, it's better to rate. I lived in New Mexico for a while, but there's some grounding here that my daughter gets here that she would never get there. But anyway.
Yeah, but growing up in that area, in that milieu, with all these, especially the sun conjunct the galactic center, it would be like you needed to learn in this lifetime about limitation. You needed to learn what it was like to live in an environment that was square, and you are anything but square, that you are something much more multidimensional than that.
Yes.
And so, this is what you chose to do. And it's fascinating that you chose to do that. And no wonder people don't understand you, because of where what you have astrologically and where you chose to incarnate and grow through. So your time is coming, though. The rest of the world is catching up with you in a good way. So just be patient, wait for everybody else to get there, and allow Uranus to continue to crack you open and to take you deeper and deeper and deeper into the mystery of Jill. And it will. And then once you get it, it's like, hey, look what I found, look what I found, look what I found. Because ultimately, with all that Sagittarius stuff, what are you here to do? You're here to be authentic. I talked about this at the beginning of the show today. I talked about Sagittarius. That was a big part of my show. And here you are chiming in with all these Sagittarian planets. You are here to anchor this notion of being authentic and truthful and sovereign. These are all part of who you are. And Uranus will bring that out. And don't be afraid of it. Just let it go. Let it go, bury the past, and, be able to be in that moment and be able to say, hey, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. I'm not going to bury this and go home and crap on people in my life. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to deal with this right here in this moment, right now. And we're going to take this apart, and I'm going to show you why this isn't appropriate. And with Pluto on your Jupiter, you'll be able to do that. By the way, Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn, you also have the potential to make a lot of money. So
when?
Well, next year when Pluto hits your Jupiter, it gets right in between, especially as it gets in between Saturn and Jupiter in your first house. You got to think big. You got to think big bucks. And I don't know what.
Do you see me, like, I just thought of an invention, but do you see me writing a book?
You could. I mean, the Sagittarius is all about publishing. Okay. Now, if you're going to write a book, you're going to have to get into that 12th house. And you're going to have to – Sagittarius is not always the most disciplined of signs. Right. True. So you'd have to figure out a way that you could do this. And because you've got Gemini in the 6th house opposing all those Sag planets, you would need somebody to help you. You would need either a writing coach or somebody that has done it and work with somebody. If you work with somebody, I think your chances of writing a book are much better. And if you write about anything that has to do with death or the afterlife, that would also be quite helpful because you've got Pluto in your chart, and Pluto actually trines your sun in the 8th house. So anything that has to do with birth, death, afterlife, mystery, that would be highlighted. But get somebody to work with.
Now, when is this supposed to happen for me?
Well, that's right now. I mean, Jupiter is going to be in your 6th house. It's right at the edge of your 5th and your 6th. So,
and that's the money thing.
Well, that's the writing thing. The money thing takes place in 2013, 2014.
Okay.
And so you need to think about that, and whatever it is that you want to focus on with Pluto, because what you focus on with Pluto in Capricorn conjunct Jupiter, you can make happen, especially in your 1st house. Okay.
Wow. That was outstanding, incredible, off the charts. I don't even know what to say.
Well, you could say, thanks, Robert, have a good day, and I'll call you back when I make my first million. How's that?
So I can save this, right? I can look up the archive and save it and, like, email it to myself?
That's right. It'll be available for archive right after the show is over.
That was just outstandingly excellent.
Well, Jill,
oh, my God.
Thank you for calling back in. Appreciate that, okay?
And thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
And I'm so glad I called back in. So it was meant to be to call you back, even though I got interrupted.
Look, your sun at 25 degrees is exactly conjunct my Jupiter, okay? So this was a meant to be kind of moment, all right?
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was Jill. That was pretty cool, huh? It's 11:20 here in sunny California. No, it's not sunny out. It's gray. Who am I kidding? I want it to be sunny, though. This is Robert Phoenix, and you're listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I'm high in 5-hour energy and a strong cup of coffee. And let's go to the next call. Hello there.
Hi. I'm a first-time listener.
Oh, hi there. What's your name?
Wanda.
Hi, Wanda. Where are you calling from, Wanda?
Florence, Alabama.
All right. How did you find the show?
Just Came on the Blog Talk and clicked in here.
Cruising, eh? So you've been listening?
First, yeah, I've been in here listening to that lady. Yeah.
What do you think so far?
I don't know. I was telling the people in the chat room I know about numerology, but I don't know anything about astrology or tarot.
Okay. All right. So when is your birthday, Wanda?
June 21st, 1962. I was born between 7:27 a.m. and 7:29 a.m.
Hold on one sec here. Let me just make my fingers move. All right. Between 7:27
a.m. to 7:29 a.m. I had the actual time, but I lost it. I remember it was between that, like 2 or 3 minutes of those.
Okay.
It's not 7:30. It could be 7:26, but I think it's 7:27 to 7:29.
All right. And where was that?
Florence, Alabama. Like Florence, Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Florence, Alabama.
Yeah. There's also Florence, Arkansas.
No, Alabama.
I know. I just saw that there was a Florence, Arkansas, too.
Oh.
All right. There you are, Wanda. All right. So you don't know a lot about your chart, do you?
No.
Right? Okay.
No.
Okay, so let's just break this down. You are a Leo rising, and you're a Gemini sun, barely 29 degrees, and you have a Aquarius moon, and your moon is at 14 degrees. So your moon and your sun aren't trines; they are too far apart. But you do have Venus in Leo, and that's at 5 degrees. And that's right on your ascendant. And then you also have your true node in Leo, also in the first house. And your true node is at 9 degrees. So let's talk a little bit about Venus and your ascendant, okay? So Venus, being a Leo ascendant, people that have Leo ascendant generally have their own unique flair and style, okay? Looking different and setting themselves apart from the rest of the masses on a physical level is very important to them. Now, it doesn't mean that you dress like Lady Gaga and walk around like Lady Gaga all the time, but there can be anything from a unique hairstyle. There's something with Leo on the ascendant that sets people that they want to set themselves apart. So it could be, it's definitely on a fashion tip, it's definitely on, so, and with Venus, right on your ascendant, it's not just about how you look, and whether it's your hair or your style of clothing, but it's also who you're with. Because people that would have Venus in Leo on the ascendant would not only want to appear different and apart from the masses, but they would also want their partner to look the same, not the same way, but unique in their own way as well. Now, what we're talking about here is kind of a classic. See, Leo is royalty. Leo is it's kings, it's queens, it's dukes, duchesses. It's separating the identity from the common man or the common woman. And when a person has Leo on the ascendant, whether or not they perceive themselves as royalty or above the masses, they certainly want to appear on some level that way, looking like and living like others would be considered a mundane existence. So with Venus there, right on your ascendant, you would theoretically want somebody to mirror this with you. So, and also, by the way, with Leo on the ascendant and Venus right there as well, you're probably a very attractive person. And you would also want to be with somebody almost as equally attractive as you, so that in some ways they would mirror your, for lack of a better term, vanity, because there is a vain quality with Leo. I mean, every Leo I've ever run across, you're not a Leo, but you do have the ascendant, and that's a very important thing, aspect in the chart. Almost every Leo I've run across tends to have a bit of vanity in their chart, and so that's not a bad thing. It's only bad if you live through that vanity exclusively.
Right.
And it's a good thing because it also represents self-esteem, right? I mean,
Right.
the excess of self-esteem would be considered vanity. Now, one of the things with all that Leo in your first house, I don't know what you do for a living, but if I sat down with you and I was your high school counselor when you were growing up, I would have said, and I had your chart in front of me, I would have said, well, you have the ability to beautify surroundings and the world around you. And that could be anything from interior design to being a beautician or working with cosmetics or anything that would bring beauty and really colorful beauty into the world around you. I would say, here, go in this direction. Bring beauty, bring color, bring life, make the world around you, make people around you, shine. And you're at your best, by the way. You're at your best because you've got your true node in the first house. You're at your best when you make other people shine. And that theoretically could also open up your heart. Say, look what I just did, or look what I was able to do. I was able to bring somebody into a situation where they were able to look great, where they were able to, to really, be in the world and be a better person for that. And that would make your heart open, because
not so much looking great, but I've actually I've stopped a lot of people from cursing, which you can curse, by the way. I don't allow anybody to curse in my house.
Okay.
Children.
Good.
I've got a lot of people. It's like I got them to stop to listen to how they're speaking.
Right.
So not so much as about it how they look, but how they go out into the world and the perception of others of what they're doing, that they need to pay close attention to what they're saying out in public.
Right. Well, the thing also with the Leo on the Leo ascendant is that you would demand respect.
Yeah.
That's a very important thing because you have a royal bearing. It's a regal bearing. That's Leo on the ascendant. So you would demand respect, and what I'm hearing from you right now is that self-respect with the kids and making sure they don't sound like they have gutter talk or something like that.
Yeah, but I got my man to quit cussing too.
Oh, well, that's good. That's excellent. So let's take a little journey now. Let's go into your moon.
Okay.
And let's go into your seventh house. And you have a moon and Saturn in your seventh house. Now, it's interesting because it's diametrically opposed to your ascendant. The seventh house is the house of relationships. Excuse me. And you have Aquarius in your house of relationships. And it's interesting because here on the ascendant, Leo tends to be a very personal sign. People really understand kind of who you are as an individual, and you have a big impact. People that have Leo on the ascendant are big personalities. And in the seventh house with Aquarius, relationships are very different. And it's fascinating because you've got Saturn is a planet that brings limitation, and so this notion of watching your language would be very indicative of Saturn in Aquarius on some level. And then because of its proximity to the moon, you've got 10 degrees of your moon, and it's conjunct Saturn. There is a quality with that which would be, I don't want to say judgmental, because Aquarius is not a judgmental sign, especially the moon. People that have Aquarius moons have a lot of latitude with people, and they can allow people to really kind of be who they are. They allow people to kind of express who they are. But with Saturn there is some limitation, and there is some form of gravity. Now, have you been married for a long time?
I was married a long time ago.
Okay.
And we divorced, but I'm back with him, but we're not married. No, we just live together, kind of.
Okay, so you were married and divorced, but now you're living together.
Right, with the same guy.
Okay, that is typically a Moon-Saturn conjunction. Because once you are in a relationship with somebody that you love, it's hard to shake that. It's hard to let that go. And that's actually, by the way, that would be a very kind of Moon in Aquarius conjunct Saturn kind of experience. And I'll tell you why. Because Moon in Aquarius does not necessarily want to live with the shackles of a formality like a union. Like, I bet you get along better now that you're not married, right? I mean, there's something about Moon in Aquarius that just wants to be free.
Yes, and because he's not home but on the weekends.
Yeah. Well, so now this is actually very interesting because you have this connection, because Moon conjunct Saturn means that you will have a very strong, lifelong relationship, but it won't look familiar. It won't follow the sort of orthodox path, which is because that's Aquarius. It's unusual, right? So you just have to be okay with it and live by your own rules and your own way of doing things. And by the way, you have your sun, which is in Gemini, right at the end of Gemini. It sextiles Uranus in your chart. So you live by your own, the beat of your own drum. Nobody tells you what to do. You're gonna do your own thing, and you're pretty unique in that way. And your Uranus and Pluto are in the second house. I don't know what you do for a living, but it's not conventional. You've got to, So you've got to kind of carve your own path in the world. I would say, Wanda, that you're really an individual, that you are unique, and that you are, based on everything that I'm seeing here, you have managed to create a very interesting life for yourself and will continue to do that. And right now, Jupiter is on your Mercury, which is probably why you called into this show, by the way, because you're in a period and a phase of expanded curiosity, and to allow your curiosity to take you to different places. And that's going to continue to happen, throughout most of this year and going into next year, where you have a Jupiter-Sun conjunction, and that's in like June of 2013. So this is a great time for you to study new things, branch out, experience new things, make new friends. It's a good time for you to join groups that are like-minded and you have some interest in, and they would have interest in you. So study groups, research.
That's what I do for a living, research.
Well, there you go. And maybe this would be.
But I don't like it because it's too personal. I have to ask them very, very, extremely personal questions, and that's the job I got now, and I want out of it.
Mm-hmm. You want out of that job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could change that.
You
could
change. Trying to.
Yeah. What you want to do is, between now and June of next year, you need to be able to allow your curiosity, follow your curiosity, and then begin to make a map to where you want to go next. So if you're
I applied for animal control officer. You think I'll get that?
Animal control?
Yeah, officer.
Officer, let me see here. You could.
I applied for yesterday.
You applied for yesterday. Let me see.
Or Monday. Sorry, Monday.
Yeah, I could see you get that. Really,
I do too, for some reason. I think I'm going to get it.
I'll tell you why.
And it's very strange, the job is, because I've never done this before, and it's really unique, Well,
I'll tell you why you could do that. You have Mars in Taurus in the 10th house, okay? And Taurus has everything to do with the natural world, right?
Yeah.
All right, so, what's running around the natural world? Animals, critters, Mars is active, and it's also a fixed sign, so there's limitation. I mean, with Mars and Taurus in the 10th house, you could actually get this, so be prepared.
I am.
And at that time, the sun, which is in your second house right now was trining Mars. So from a timing perspective, it's actually pretty interesting.
September 10th is when I applied for it. And
Yes.
October the 1st is when a job opens, is when somebody's going to go in there.
Yeah. So I think there's a possibility you could get this based on the angle between the sun in your second house, because the sun had just moved across Pluto in your second house.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a transformation of how you deal with your resources and how you work, because you have Pluto in Virgo, right? And it's trining your Mars up there at the 10th house. So don't be surprised if you at least get called into an interview in this, and then the rest is up to you, right?
Oh, I just tell them that I don't mind picking up deceased animals or scraping up animals that are been hit, and I don't mind cleaning up after them. I don't mind none of it.
Well, there you go.
Get adopted.
There you go.
Procedures.
And
just sell myself.
Pluto's in your 6th house, by the way, right now, and that means that you will undergo a shift and a transformation in your work, in what you're here to do. So, and right now Pluto is at 8 degrees. It's not quite trying your Mars, but as we get deeper into 2013 and especially 2014, it will begin to align with your natal Mars. That could be really interesting for you in terms of your work. So good luck with that.
Oh, believe me. It took 4 years to get this job I got now. I've worked with this research company before.
Uh-huh.
Just got the job, and I found out it was a health and alcohol study.
Yeah.
Found out that I don't want to do this because it's just very personal. I just really can't say.
Yeah, you're very sensitive. You know, you've got Chiron and Jupiter and Pisces in the 8th house, and they oppose Pluto, by the way. And so it's a very, it's not necessarily the personal piece, but it's a sensitivity piece. And that could be a little much for you. But you would still do quite well with it, because what are we talking about? Pisces represents addiction, right?
Well, it's addiction, but it brings up post-traumatic stress disorders in people if they've ever seen a dead body, if they've ever been to prison,
right?
If they've ever been molested.
Right.
And I don't want to handle that. It's just too much health questions, mental health and stuff.
Well, go pick up some dead animals for a while. That'll.
I'd rather do that than sit there and. Yes, I'd rather do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen. Best of luck to you. And if you get the gig, call back in and give us a. Give us a story or two.
That is really good what you done, and I will do like that other lady. I'll go through the archives.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Tell your friends, Wanda.
I will.
Okay.
Hey.
Yeah.
Can you get do you do like a more in-depth readings or something?
I do. You can go to my website, robertphoenix.com, or you can email me, robertphoenix@robertphoenix.com, and we can do something on the side. All right?
I'll go back and listen. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
All right. Wanda. I think it was the first Wanda I've ever spoken to in this lifetime. Okay. Let's take another call. Hello?
Hey, Robert. It's Eric. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, Mr. E?
Number one, I wanted to say I'm glad to hear you're going to have Freeman on your show. I think he's a great guy to listen to. And
yeah, we were talking on the phone, and we had a nice little cadence and rhythm, and I think we'll do just fine together.
Yeah. But as to me, I mentioned this to you in past calls, but my birthday's on the 15th, which is coming up this Saturday.
Yep.
And the thing about this time of year, or this year, that kind of hits me is that in the past I've told you about this ex that I had this breakup with last year.
Oh, yeah.
Her birthday is the 14th. And I'm kind of forced to think about that a bit. I'm curious if there's anything that you might get just comparing our charts.
Well, I can tell you right now, straight out of the gate, if you've got the Sun-Sun conjunction, and that's a really powerful conjunction for people. And it doesn't always mean that people will be together, but it does mean that there is a deep simpatico. Everybody I've ever met right around my birthday, I've gotten along with extremely well, with the exception of some September 21st people, because I'm born on the 22nd. Some September 21st can be an interesting personality to deal with in its own right. But so you're going to have the resonance of this person it'll permeate your life. I mean, not just this birthday, but every birthday, right? I mean, you're not going to be able to shake that. And, so it's like, what do you do with that energy? How do you work with it? How do you deal with it?
I've realized that. I've kind of wondered if the same's true about her, vice versa or anything like that.
But it would have to be on some level, right? But you also have to realize she's born the day ahead of you, so she comes first.
Yeah.
So she would put herself ahead of you.
Well, yeah.
Whereas, see, for you, it would be more about retrospect because you're born after her. So you would think about her more in retrospect than she would think about you. And that's just kind of the way it is based on the proximity of the days. But nonetheless, she would think about you. And there is a resonance. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go off script here. I'm not going to do astrology with you because we just did a reading. So what I'm going to do, Eric, is I'm going to pull a couple tarot cards here for you. All right?
Okay.
So I have my deck sitting right next to me. Do I have your permission?
Sure.
Okay. So here we go. All righty. Let's see. So this is for you. I'm pulling a card for you right here, and this is a card for her, and this is the composite energy right here, and this is the meaning of the two. What was it all about? Okay, so for you, I got the universe. Now, how good is that, man? It's like that is an amazing card for me to pull. So totality of your being. It is the alpha and the omega, and this is where you are right now. So the connection between you and her is insignificant between, really, your connection between you and yourself. So what this card says to me, Eric, is that you need to, it would be helpful if you could expand your thoughts and expand your mind to embrace the totality of not only who you are, but also the world around you, the world within you. This is a very powerful card. It also represents it's a card of culmination and achievement. So it's getting to me, this card says, think about those things, that you are greater than the sum and the parts of the relationship or the connection, and that she in and of herself is part of that, but not it, right? So this is an incredibly powerful card for you. Now, where's she? So, okay, Sun in Virgo, Prudence. It's very interesting. She's a Virgo, right? And I'm going to tell you, and this is not a value judgment based on her or you, but you're beyond this person. Even though there's a connection separated by one day, you're beyond this person. You're beyond sort of where they are in their life right now. Where they are is they're I wouldn't say they're in a contracting phase because Virgo is not necessarily, but they're in a more conservative and in some ways, what's the word I'm looking for? They're in a learning cycle in their lives, and you're not there. You're at a different place. You're at a place where you're ready to step off into something much bigger and far greater, and they're still learning about their identity, and that separates the two of you. She's trying to figure out who she is, and you're transcending the notion of identity. All right, and the composite energy between you, there is a very strong intuitive connection between the two of you. And that, I think, is going to be evident the closer you get to your birthday. And I would not be surprised if something sort of kismetic happens. Like either you think of her and she calls, or you run into her. There's something that's outside of space and time, okay, that does connect the two of you.
and it's on an intuitive level. Now, I also get a sense here that there will be, when she gets clearer about who she is and cleans up her act, and she needed to clean up her act a little here, that the more that you are successful, the more that you're tapping into this notion of the universe or the world, the better the chances are that she is going to make a reappearance in your life. Okay? Mm-hmm. So just hold that space. But you don't want to do it to get her back. That's not.
I don't even know that I necessarily want her back.
I understand that. Yeah, but if you actualize and you keep going in this direction that I know that you're going in, just by the force of the physics of emotion and attraction and interrelating, she will circle back in her own way. So, and I'm not saying this is about reconnecting with the relationship, okay? But this is about her coming to see you in a different light. And it'll happen. Now, let's see. So the outcome here is I've got the Two of Wands, which is Dominion, in this deck that I use. So it's about equality. It's about equal energy. And the other card that I pulled prior to that was the Priestess, and she rules over all the twos. So this is about coming to some level of equality, some level of balancing out some kind of contractual or energetic contract or agreement that the two of you have had. And she's working on it in her own way, believe it or not. And you're working on it on your way. And I get a sense here that, and it's going to be a while, by next April, that there will be a simpatico and an accord with this relationship, where you'll be fully through it, and you'll have an opportunity to interact as friends or interact at a different energetic level.
I'm curious, where'd you get the April time from?
I read the energy of the card. It's Aries on the card. Okay. That's April. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I think a lot of what you said really resonates with me. And, I mean, a lot of that's, I know I'm already in progress through, I mean, particularly the universe thing. You know, I'm kind of more reconciling my place in the universe, I feel, and expanding my horizons.
No, this is a big time for you, Eric. So you don't want to miss out. You know, just continue to, you know, peel away the layers. And, you know, I think the big thing for you is trust. You know, you had your trust violated with this relationship. And I think that what would be really important for you and meaningful and powerful for you is to reaffirm your trust inside yourself and to trust, you know, what you can do and how you manifest and the relationships you have and the new friendships you have, and build that level of trust back up. And my sense here is that the universe really wants to work with you on that.
I really appreciate everything, Robert.
All right, man. Well, I'll see you around because you were there in the Facebook realm and you call on the show, and it's good getting to know you, and just keep on doing your thing, okay?
Likewise. Oh, by the way, since you mentioned Facebook and you mentioned in Freeman, I don't know, I mentioned something on there about Freeman and Obama and the space war and this cloning stuff.
Yeah.
And you might have already seen that before, but that's
I think it's one of the best things that Freeman has done. The whole Apophis thing, that's incredible. Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe that's something you guys might get into.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the whole 2 hours, and Freeman and I we're just gonna break it down, and he's an absolutely fascinating guy, and I'm really looking forward to our time together.
I'm looking forward to hearing it. So appreciate everything, Robert.
All right, Eric. Take good care.
You too.
See you around.
Bye-bye.
Okay, it is 11:50, which means that there are only 10 minutes left in the show today. Interesting show, I have to admit. So here we are. It is September 12th. and we've gotten through September 11th. Yeah. I'll have Freeman on Friday. You don't want to miss it. I think it's going to be an epic show. And if you don't know who Freeman is, go find him, Freeman TV. And the video that I was talking with Eric about is Freeman does this live presentation. I think he did it in London, and he actually did some really interesting facial recognition stuff with Tutankhamun and Tutankhamun's wife and Malia and Sasha. You got to find this, and he really gets into cloning and Apophis, which is this major asteroid, which is winging its way towards Earth, and this whole notion of space wars and torsion fields and actually using asteroids as weapons and all kinds of crazy stuff. We're going to get into that on Friday. It should be really, really interesting. All right, so let's wind this baby down. I want to thank everybody for calling in and being a part of the show, and everybody in the chat room, even though I haven't been able to step in there today. I'll go in there for the last few minutes of the show. And we'll see you on Friday with the great Freeman. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and you've been navigating the astrological matrix with me together. And I'll see you on Friday. Take good care. Bye.
In the name I am that I am, Sanat Kumara, I call forth the light of the living word, beloved Elohim, beloved archangels, beloved mighty Choans of the rays and the lords of karma. I call for the action of beloved Pallas Athena, beloved goddess of liberty, beloved Nada, beloved Kuan Yin, beloved Portia, beloved great divine director, beloved all-seeing eye of God, Cyclopeia. Let God's will be done, let God's will be done, let God's will be done. I do in the action of the sacred fire in this hour, descend on mighty cosmos, secret rays. I am the holding of the balance of Lord Gautama Buddha, beloved Sanat Kumara and the seven holy Kumaras. I call upon the sacred fire, I call upon the light of God that never fails. Beloved mighty, I am present, come forth in this hour of the victory. Come forth in this hour of the victory of the God slain. I demand the full power of beloved mighty to be with us this night. Beloved Jesus, send it to me, Lord, my Savior, Gautama and Sanat Kumara. Come, Lord, now in the victory of the God slain. Send the light of 10,000 suns. Beloved mighty, stand, mighty, stand, mighty, stand. Presence of one sort of aim around this fortune now. I call upon the great single sun magnet. I call upon the light of God.